Gingerbread has a long and interesting history. George Washington's mother made her special version for Lafayette, and Queen Elizabeth I's fondness for gingerbread men made them synonymous with all things fancy. When I think of gingerbread though, I think of the Hansel and Gretel story, the gingerbread house, and the trail of crumbs that led our heroes home. Just like gingerbread, and just like this wonderful cupcake recipe, there are a lot of ingredients that work together to make something special. And just like the fairy tale, there's always something subtle and wonderful that will lead you where you need to go. I'm Jenny Randolph. Welcome to This Day. Welcome back. This time around, we are making gingerbread latte cupcakes. And gingerbread is one of those things where I think you have to have at least a bite of gingerbread during the Christmas season. It's not really Christmas until we do something gingerbread around here. Sometimes it is cookies, sometimes it's bread, sometimes it's cupcakes. But this one has a little bit of a twist this year. I add coffee and I add actual fresh ginger to the mixture. So let's get started, and I'm gonna show you how to make these amazing cupcakes. We're gonna start out with 1 3/4 cup of organic all-purpose flour. And if you're measuring it out or weighing it out, that's gonna end up being about 210 grams. And you know how I feel about measuring by the cup or measuring by weight. So if you can measure by weight, 210 grams, that's the way to go. Now to this, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we want to flavor our mixture. We're gonna add 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, and this is gonna give you that really good ginger taste. We wanna add a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. We're gonna give that a mix. Make sure all of our dry ingredients are really mixed together. We're gonna set this aside while we work on our wet ingredients. I've gone ahead and melted 1 stick of butter. And now we're gonna add our fresh ginger. So you'll wanna get a ginger root and cut a pretty good chunk off. Just gonna cut all of the outside papery part off. You know, I know this takes a little bit of time to peel your ginger and do all of that stuff, but it really does separate the store-bought things from the homemade stuff. This is where you go the extra mile. And if there's a time to do the extra things, it's during Christmas. But it's the small things that really make a difference when you're baking. This fresh ginger adds such a bite and such a good depth to these cupcakes, which would, you know, the ground ginger would be fine to use and you'd still get a really good cupcake. But with the added ginger, it just does something extra special. So once you have it peeled, you're going to grate about a tablespoon of fresh ginger into your butter. You know, I usually reserve using fresh ginger when I'm making like Asian dishes or something that I really want it to feel fresh. And when I tried it with fresh ginger in this cupcake mixture, I was so impressed that I think that I'm gonna try to start incorporating in a lot more recipes, not just my savory dishes, but also my dessert recipes. I think it's just such an amazing way to add freshness and depth and spice. Now let's finish off the rest of our wet ingredients. We wanna start with a cup of light brown sugar, and you'll wanna make sure that it's pressed down and even so that you get the proper measurement. Then you want to add a 1/4 cup of molasses. And you can measure this out, but I kind of know after all these years of baking what a 1/4 cup looks like, and I really don't feel like cleaning my 1/4 cup right now, so I'm just gonna eyeball it, but you'll want to add, again, a 1/4 cup of molasses. And that's what is gonna give this the gingerbread taste. Not just the ginger, but also the molasses. That's the taste that everybody's really familiar with. Now we wanna add our ginger and melted butter. And we're gonna give that a really good mix. As usual, we're gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl and we're gonna add 2 eggs. To our mixture, we wanna add a teaspoon of vanilla paste. I told you that this was my new favorite thing to work with, and if you watched my truffle video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And also a 1/2 cup of strong coffee. This is what's going to give it the latte in the gingerbread latte cupcake. So you want that coffee flavor infused in there. We're gonna mix it one more time. And now we're gonna add all of our dry ingredients. You can stop it halfway through, scrape down the sides of your bowl. Make sure all that flour and spices are getting incorporated in our mixture. Now we're ready to fill our baking cups. And as usual, I'm using my 1/4 cup ice cream scoop to fill these up. It just makes it so much easier. And then you know you have the same amount in every single cup. So they bake up even, there's no guesswork. It really is such a good investment. If you haven't bought one, go out and buy one or put it on your Christmas list, because you will not regret it. I usually can get a perfect baker's dozen, but it looks like I can scrape one more out of there. So it looks like this time around, we're gonna be able to have 14. But if you count on this recipe making about a dozen, you'll never go wrong. You may have some extra ones, but those extra ones are always just for you to taste anyway, so you don't have to tell anybody. It can be our secret. So you can see that I have dripped a little bit here, and you don't want to let that sit because those parts are going to burn and it's just going to make the oven smell bad. So go ahead and just wipe those off with a wet paper towel. It happens all the time. Sometimes we're moving quick. That's the way it goes, and you just drip it down and accidents happen, right? So just take a little bit of extra time. Boy, I was really messy today. But you know what? Sometimes you just have your messy days. Sometimes you just have days where things go a little bit more clumsy. Now it's into the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. So while our cupcakes are baking in the oven, we're gonna make the frosting. And we're gonna make a cream cheese frosting because I just think cream cheese and gingerbread go really, really well together. You could make a royal icing or a buttercream if you wanted to. That is completely up to you, but I just think this fits our gingerbread latte cupcakes so, so well. A little bit of cream cheese frosting. So we'll wanna start with a block of cream cheese and 1 stick of butter. Now these are at room temperature. You can see that they're kind of melty, so don't try to do this if they're cold right out of the fridge. To this, we're gonna start with 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now we're gonna be adding a total of 3 cups of powdered sugar to this, but we just wanna start with 1, let it incorporate, and then add the other 2 as we go along. That looks pretty good. Now we're gonna add our 2nd cup and let that incorporate. In retrospect, it probably was not a really good idea for me to wear black, so if you're making these, note to self, do not wear black, because I'm sure by the end of this, I will have powdered sugar all over me. And we wanna add that final cup. And along with that final cup, we wanna add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. That looks really good and mixed. We'll just give it a once over real quick just to make sure everything at the bottom got mixed up, all that powdered sugar is incorporated. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know this trick. Take a plastic bag, gallon bag, And you'll want to kind of turn it inside out just a little bit so it stands up. Hold the top down. And now we're going to put our frosting in that bag. Just makes it so much easier when it stands up on its own. You don't have to have like 400 hands in order to get the frosting into the bag. Now we want to close this up. Make sure all the air is out of it. And this can sit in the fridge until our cupcakes are done cooking and they are completely cooled. So we just took these out of the oven. They are perfectly baked and you can really smell the gingerbread. It smells so good in here. You're gonna wanna let these cool down at room temperature. It's gonna take about 20 minutes or so before we frost them. So our frosting has been in the refrigerator and we just wanna snip the very edge off of the plastic bag, right there, so that we can get to frosting these. We just want to finish these off with a sprinkling of cinnamon, just like you would a gingerbread latte if you got it from the coffee shop. And there you have it, our fresh gingerbread latte cupcakes with cream cheese frosting. If you've enjoyed watching me today, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, give that notification bell just a little hit and you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time.